So after reading a file, we now have a data frame. A data frame is one of two main API we use to work in Apache Spark. To get a data frame, we can read from multiple sources. But before that, we first need a way to read files. To read files, we can use the read method of the Spark session. And this can be used to read static files, so files that are already completely saved somewhere and are not changing by second, like financial data, or let's say if you are a trader and you have some file that where the stock exchange is sending you update every second, then we cannot use the data frame reader to read that kind of file. Apache Spark has other APIs to manage that. So here we have the read method. In our case, we are reading a file that is structured like a comma separated file, a standard CSV, but the separator is something else. So let's see what options we have with the read method. With the read method, we can read different file type, and I think almost any existing file format can be read with the read method. Here you can see you can read CSV files. So this is where you have real comma separated files. So a file where the values are separated by a comma. Here you can read from a database, from any relational database management system. Here you can read JSON files. Here you can also read ORC or Parquet files. These are file format used in the big data ecosystem because they are really fast and really performant. And one here you can also read text file, real standard text files. So the data frame reader also have a method called format, where you can specify exactly what you want. This is what I did here. I said the customer file we want to read is a comma separated file because it's structured like that. But then I also said, please change the separator and use the vertical bar as separator, because in our case, the separator is not a comma, but it is a vertical bar. That's why instead of using the CSV method, we use the load method and then pass in some additional options. So the load method allows us to specify the source of the data we want to read, and this can be anything from local file system to a cloud file system like Amazon S3 or Azure Data Lake storage. And after doing all this, we have a data frame. Now the question is, what is a data frame? You can think of a data frame as a table in a traditional database. And like a database table, it is structured like a spreadsheet with rows and columns. So let's take a small look. I made a picture. So you can think of a data frame like a spreadsheet that is in memory and managed by Apache Spark. A data frame has rows. This is a row, and it has columns. a row has a fixed number of columns, which then means we cannot have a row like this that then stop here. Not possible. So if a column doesn't have any value, then it has to be there, but it can then have the value null or empty, like I did here or here. Also, one thing, so through the whole data frame, a column must have the same data type. What I mean by that is that, for example, here we said the last name, so the column last name is of type string. So the column last name is of type string, which means every row in our data frame must have a value of type string. So we can't not create a third row here and then set instead of having string here, we are going to put an array in here, something like that with the value. This doesn't work, this is illegal, so this just doesn't work, so we cannot do that. This is not, don't do that, this doesn't work. So every column so a column has the same data type across all rows. One thing about data frame also is that they can support complex type like arrays. You can see it here. This is an array. Or let me delete this thing, or it can even support struct. So this has more flexibility than a traditional database. One thing about data frame also is that they are immutable. So once created, we can't not modify then contain. If you want to change something in a data frame, you have to create another one by applying some operation on it, or some function, or some transformation as they are called officially. And this will transform your existing data frame into the new one where your changes are applied. Data frames are also distributed, which means when you have terabyte of data, a data frame can't be available on multiple machines across a cluster. The Spark session then takes care of everything necessary so that your source code works as if you are dealing with only one file. This is why the Spark session is the entry point to programming Spark. It takes care of all the complexity that we face when we are writing software that runs on multiple machines, and also dealing with big data at scale. So at the end, after we've done everything, we then have a data frame, and from this data frame we can then apply all our business logic or whatever we want to do with the data.